Welcome to the Zachariah Frank Show. My goal is to help you live a healthier, more informed, and all-around better life. To do that, I'm exploring essential topics with industry experts and bringing you all sorts of helpful information. We're talking physical health, mental and emotional well-being, spirituality, relationships, philosophy, and more. Unafraid of any topic and unapologetic about the truth. If you like no-nonsense, deep and meaningful conversations, you're in the right place. There's plenty to talk about, so let's get to today's episode. Today I have a very fascinating guest with me. She is a confident bald woman who has overcome her own struggles with hair loss and now helps other women facing similar challenges. She's a certified transformational practitioner, and through her coaching program, Limitless Mindset Coaching, she guides women in building their confidence and embracing their hair loss. She has personally experienced the transformative power of building herself up and has learned to let go of negative self-talk and fears about how others perceive her. She now walks with confidence and lives in a way that she receives compliments and admiration from strangers. She's dedicated her life to helping other women feel free and empowered to be their authentic selves. It's my pleasure to welcome Kellie Rhymes to the show. Kellie, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, Kellie. So let's get to the topic at hand and let's figure out where you've come from and let's hear a little bit more about your story. So let's start way from the beginning. And I'd love to know, before this became an area of focus for you because it was something that you experienced in hair loss, what was your relationship like with hair growing up? Like, what was the mindset or mentality, and how did you like to wear your hair, and what was your relationship like with hair, even if you maybe didn't think about it at the time?
Well, hair was always a big thing. Hair has always been important. When I was younger, we would sit in the beauty shop and for like a whole day on Saturdays. Oh, if you had a Saturday appointment, be prepared to be there all day long. And that's how serious it was. The beauty shop was filled with women who are getting their hair relaxed, getting it styled, and that's what I would do too. And we had all types of styles when I was younger. It was like the thing to do. If I didn't have my hair done, it was like, I don't look, as pretty as I could, it was that type of thing. So it was very, very important. It was definitely a part of my identity. And again, I'm speaking kind of in general. I'm saying me, but this is really in general for women, especially African-American women. Like, hair is a thing. And a lot of money is spent on hair, whether it's getting your own hair done, getting extensions, getting wigs. It's a lot, right? But as I got older, of course, it's not as important because I've gone through a journey, right? Or I've gone through this experience. So now, of course, it's not important to me, but I had to work on myself. But back then, yeah, I always kept my hair done, going every 2 weeks to get it styled or learning how to do styles myself. It was important.
And what do you think about that as kind of a default setting for people and amongst even your culture, if you'd like to reflect on that? Do you find that focus to be healthy and natural? Do you think it's something that's overinflated? Do you think, it might be personal to different people? How do you view the focus on hair in general?
I think it's overrated because when you think about it and we look at these commercials on TV, we see the long hair, it's thick, it's flowing. But in reality, most women, I don't care what culture you're in, what age, unless you're probably, I guess, less than 20, 20 or younger, your hair is normally not that thick. It may start off thick like that, but as you get older, it tends to thin out, and that's just natural, period. So I do believe it's overrated. I do believe that it's promoted to make us go buy these hair extensions because we want to look like the ladies in the commercials or the wigs or different things. I mean, I think it's a moneymaker, really. I'm just being honest. It's definitely a money-making industry. And it's promoted in society that you aren't beautiful unless you look a certain type of way. And that's just totally not true. It's not the norm. And I think we just need to challenge the beauty standards at this point because there are just so many different types of women, shapes, sizes, looks, whatever it may be. and they're still beautiful, regardless of if they look like the women in the commercial or in the ad on the magazine. They're still beautiful. So it's just time to kind of shift the reality of what beauty really looks like in today's society.
Yeah, there's always a lot of angles to something going on, right? There's a lot of times inherent natural processes and thought processes that they get usurped and corrupted by marketing endeavors and avenues. And, my personal thoughts is I don't think it's bad to consider hair. It's certainly there for, a reason. God gave us hair,
Mhm.
and, you know, just like he gave us, he could take it away too. But
Right.
I think it does serve some sort of social signaling function. But yeah, absolutely. When we go so artificial in how we treat hair and how we look at hair, and when artificiality and artificial standards become what's expected, I think that's what leads to the unhealthy relationship and more of the stress when the it's promoted to be what you're not instead of celebrating what you are and naturally are. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm 44. So I was born in the 80s. Well, in 80. But
The
when I look
80.
at, thank you. When I look at history and think about like what did women do back then and like how it has progressed to today, back then maybe people in Hollywood would wear the wigs and extensions, famous people. We weren't worried about it too much. I mean, yes, it was still a thing, but we weren't as worried about it as we are today. Today, it's the thing to do. It is everybody, it's like you have to have these lashes and these wigs and this and that artificial part that you just talked about. It's like, why? Why do we have to do all of this when it's not even a part of us? Why can't we embrace our beauty, like you just said, and be our authentic selves and know that we are still beautiful? We need to raise our vibration on that one, right? Everybody has to have that self love to know, hey, you don't need to have all of that. You're not, even if you think you're going to attract somebody doing all of that, chances are, if you was yourself, you would still attract somebody, who's probably more quality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I there's a great deal of sadness in it when I look at it. And I think it's one thing to play around with wigs. They're fun, like let's see how I'd look this way. But I think there's a lot of people out there, both men and women, that feel uncomfortable without a wig.
Hmm.
And I've seen this amongst all cultures. I've seen this again, like I said, in men and women. There's people that they'll say they don't feel like themselves without a wig of some sorts or a toupee or whatever you call it. But
Hmm.
I think there's a great trauma there and a great, thing that would likely be beneficial to work on in oneself if someone finds themselves in that scenario. Because then you were saying, without this thing that's not me put on me, then I don't feel like me. And that's a very fascinating mental schema to be going on within someone. And so what do you think about wigs in general? Like, do you think they're harmful? Have you ever experimented with them at any point along your hair loss journey or before then? What's your
Oh,
what's your thoughts on wigs?
yes. So I definitely wore wigs. And I really don't have a problem with wigs. My problem is about how the person feels internally, just like you said. If a person feels like they have to have on this wig to feel a certain type of way to be themselves or be beautiful, that's the problem I have. But in general, just wearing a wig, do whatever you want to do. You have your own choice and free will to do that. But yeah, I definitely wore wigs. I wore wigs for us probably over 10 years because I was hiding, right? So with my hair loss, I have alopecia and I just kind of didn't know what to do. And I did not have the support system, or I did not seek the support system because I didn't know where to go. So the only people who knew that I had hair loss were my immediate friends and my close family. And when I say that, I mean just like my mom and sister, not anyone, no one else besides that. So I definitely wore wigs. I've experimented. I've had to do trial and error. I had some good wigs and bad wigs, and we know we have seen bad wigs. But yeah, definitely, definitely. But since I made the conscious decision to cut my hair off for the second time, and this is the look I chose, and that was in 2019, I could probably give you, I probably can count on one hand how many times I've actually put my wigs back on. I still have all of my wigs and they're in a tote at this point in the garage because I'm like, you never know when I may want it, but I haven't really worn them. I thought I would when it would be cold outside or different things like that. And sometimes I will every now and then, but I'd rather just put on a skull cap. And just go because it's easy and it's freeing and I don't have to worry about anything. And so that's the part I really enjoy, just the freedom of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As someone that shaves my head bald, and I love it. It does get cold, so I do like my skull caps. But
Yes.
yeah, I love that I can leave the house and know that I'm going to return and my hair doesn't look messy at any step along the way. I look
Yeah.
neat. I look put together. That there's something to be said for it.
Yeah.
But before we get too far off, for those who might not know, can you just give a quick synopsis of what alopecia is and where it comes from? And have you researched deeply into this condition and all the, behind the scenes in the body of it? What can you tell our audience about alopecia itself?
Yes. So alopecia, it comes in a lot of different forms. So there isn't just one type of alopecia. So keep that in mind. You may have a form of alopecia where you get stressed and a small spot, may come out of your hair and it'll only come out in that spot, or it may come out in patches all over your head. Some alopecia people or people who have alopecia, excuse me, they wake up in the morning and their hair is just on the pillow and nothing happened. It's like like an immune kind of system disease type of situation where it just kind of flares up in some people and then they may not have hair for some time. It may grow back. It may not grow back. So it's very hard to kind of generalize alopecia because it's just so many different types. The type I have is called, well, the nickname is scarring alopecia. And mine is strictly from hair products, using hair products or styling practices that were harsh on my hair or scalp. And it caused my hair follicles to die or come out. So that's another form of alopecia. So it's just like a lot of different things that can happen. Some people don't have hair all over their body and, it never grew in and it will never come. So it really just depends. Now, have I gone deep into alopecia and did that type of research? No, I have not because like I said, it's just so much involved with alopecia. And I try to really focus on women with hair loss in general, because that covers a broad spectrum of women and different things that could cause hair loss. So I do a little bit, but not a deep dive. But I think I will because I feel like I need to. And I'm actually going back to the dermatologist again just to be retested because sometimes women will start off with one form of alopecia and then they may come up with another form of alopecia years later. So I'm actually just going just to see, hey, what's going on with me now? And if it's still the same thing, is it something different? And just kind of just getting reevaluated regarding my alopecia.
That's fascinating. And thank you for giving that breakdown because it sounds like alopecia is just some medical made up word that has been given to mean chronic hair loss. And because, like you said, that can be from a lot of different contributory factors, there isn't necessarily a one size reason in anybody. And in that way, there's not necessarily a one size way to go about handling it or dealing with it or trying to approach one's personal experience with it. But yeah, you really nailed a lot of important things to consider in someone's life and in someone's health because absolutely stress is such a huge factor in a lot of ailments in the body. And I always say that our external self is always an indicator. Like our what we see on the outside of our body is indicating to us and giving us feedback of what's being input into the body. And that could
Mm-hmm.
be on the stress side and the emotion side, but that could also be on the physical product side, like you mentioned. That's so huge. And I'm always such a huge advocate for people being so cautious of what they're putting in their body and
Yeah.
on their body because a lot of people don't even know. They might know, oh, yeah, I use Pantene, I use Tresemme, but they don't know anything beyond that. And that's scary
Yeah.
because our body is so absorbent and so porous, and certain areas of our body are resilient and they'll take a lot of abuse, but they can only take so much. And our
Hmm.
hair is one of those indicators that is very sensitive and will give us feedback. And a lot of times, when it gives us that feedback of not being so healthy because we're not necessarily taking care of it in the best way, people will pile on that with more intervention that's bringing them in a negative direction. And is that what happened to you? What kind of hair practices did you have before that you believe contributed to this scarring type alopecia?
Well, I know the number one thing was relaxers. So again, back then, relaxing your hair was what African American women did because we needed to straighten our hair to fit into society, unfortunately. That was just instilled in us. You have to look a certain type of way, to be treated a certain type of way, to fit in, all of the things. And that's just really being honest. So putting the relaxer in our hair, it would give me in particular chemical burns because they would leave it on my hair too long, and it would just cause me to have sores in my head whenever I would leave the stylist. Now, it wasn't every single time, but it was the majority of the time because they didn't want to rinse the relaxer out until my hair got a certain, to a certain straightness, right? I have very, very coarse, curly hair, so it takes a lot to really straighten my hair. But that was the number one cause. But back then, they weren't doing research, or at least we didn't know anything about the research regarding relaxers, right? So we didn't know it was going to be harmful for our hair. We didn't even know certain shampoos and things like that we could not use in our hair until later on. But once we started learning about the products and how much damage they were doing, then that's when you started seeing more African American women wear their hair naturally. And it wasn't embraced at first. Now it's the norm. But at first, even in our culture, it was not embraced. If you wear your hair naturally, people would look like, what are you doing? You need to go straighten your hair. So it
Now,
was tough.
now that sentiment, did you experience that? And if you did, was it more so from other Black women or Black men, even, or was it from other groups?
No, it was from my community. Brainwashed, I'm telling you, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It was from my community, mainly the women. Now, men, they may say something every now and then, but they're not really going to comment on your hair unless you guys are in a relationship or, you guys are relatives or something like that. They don't really say too much. But women, yes. When I first discovered that I had a bald spot at the top of my head and I cut off my locks because I had dreadlocks at that time. I just wore my hair naturally. And this was in the early 2000s, maybe. And it just being natural was not a thing back then. It was the beginning of embracing natural hair. So definitely I got the looks. Are you going to straighten or press that out? Are you going to get a relaxer? What are you going to do? All of the questions. Are you wearing your hair like that to work? Just even going on an interview. How are you going to wear your hair for an interview? It was a big thing back then as far as what your hair looks like.
Yeah. And how wrapped up in that culture and mentality would you say that you were at the time? Were you very much someone that also kind of perpetuated the thoughts onto other women and like within yourself? Or would you say that you always kind of participated in it to not hear about it for yourself, but like didn't really view it in such a solidified way? Like how deep in that mindset were you?
Okay, so before my 20s, I was really deep in it. But probably in my 20s, I became a little bit more rebellious. I know it. So I was like, okay, like I'm not going to put a relaxer in my hair because clearly my hair is already coming out. Why would I do that? So my choice was to go ahead and I would rather wear a wig versus put a relaxer in my head. So I would wear my hair natural. And if I couldn't figure out what to do with my hair, because I didn't know how to style my hair. Remember, when I was growing up, we didn't wear a hair natural. So when I actually wore my hair natural, I had to figure out how to style it, what to use on my hair. I had no clue. I couldn't really go to anybody because nobody else knew. Everybody is straightening their hair. We press it out or we flat iron it. That was the thing to do. So when your hair is in its natural state, there is a totally different process to even comb your hair. I had no clue. I had to go to YouTube University to start learning how to even properly take care of my hair. And I know I made some mistakes, but eventually I got the hang of it, learned some things, and I just did the basics to make myself presentable, make sure I always look nice with my natural hair.
And so when you were younger, how young were you that you were going to this stylist and they were burning you every single time? Like, were you with your like mother or parental, like who shouldn't someone have been like, wow, this is happening, like let's go to a different stylist? Was there another stylist you could go to? Like, I don't understand why you kept being subjected to this.
And you know what? You make a lot of sense,
Yeah.
but I'm not, everybody was going through this. Every woman who gets a relaxer
Oh,
at some
okay.
point in time, not every time, but at some point in time has had a chemical burn because
Got
a
it.
relaxer was left on their hair. So if it happened, it was like, oh, okay, well, it'll go away. Did not know it would cause hair loss eventually, but it was normal. That was just the thing. Oh, they left it in too long. All right, well, you'll have a sore, put some Vaseline on it, keep it, and it'll go away. That was it. So, yes, if only we knew then what we knew now, things would have been different. Yes.
Do you think back then there were people that knew, but then like were looked at as crazy if like they tried to tell people about it?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I'm sure though, if it was, yes, they would be disregarded because again, the norm was straighten your hair. Period. So even before relaxers, like in my mom's age, they would just use a pressing comb. It was all about straightening your hair. Period. So even if someone says, "Oh, that's going to do this, this, and that," people would have said, okay, whatever, I'm going to go get this relaxer because that's how ingrained it is in the culture or was in the culture.
And before you were on this, journey of your own with hair loss, do you recall seeing other women that were either embracing hair loss and shaved their head bald or just were bald by choice for whatever reason and like what you may have thought of them, or you just never even saw them?
No, only time when I was growing up, the only time I saw a woman that was bald is usually when she was going through some type of chemo treatments, something related to cancer. Otherwise, you didn't really see it. I think one time I do remember when I was younger, I saw a lady, and she wasn't even a lady, she was actually a teenager. She was getting her hair styled for my stylist, and I saw she was missing hair, but I didn't know what that was. I was still, I was younger, so I didn't know exactly what was going on with her. She was just getting weave put in her hair to cover it up, and I was just like, okay, no big deal. But yeah, I never knew anything about alopecia, or hair loss due to stress or hormonal imbalances. I didn't know any of that. Even when I started losing my own hair, I had no clue. I'm just thinking, oh, it's something I might have used on my hair, or it's something I might be malnutritioned, or something I'm eating, something I'm doing personally that's causing this. So let me try to fix it with some essential oils, or let me figure out how to naturally fix this. But when I noticed that that wasn't helping, that's when I was like, okay, let's go to a dermatologist and see what's happening here.
Cool. And so walk us through the process of what happened when you went to the dermatologist. Did you find them to be helpful? Were they not really helpful and you had to do independent research? And what was like the emotional experience of coming to, accept what had happened and what was happening? Did you at first feel that you were going to, reverse it or what was that like emotional and mental journey and what did it look like outwardly as well?
Okay. So when I first started really noticing my hair loss, I was in denial. Basically, I went into, okay, I can fix it. It's something like I said I'm doing. Let me figure out how to naturally fix this. And I spent a lot of time. I did not go to the dermatologist for probably a couple years before, I was just really trying to figure it out. But when I finally did go to a dermatologist, it was emotional because I just can remember it. I'm sitting there, I have a wig on my head. My hair is kind of braided down under, but I have like a lot of gaps because of the hair loss. And I'm like snatching my wig off, like, okay, what is going on here? And so the doctor and the nurse, they just was like taking it back a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? But he looked at me and he's like, yeah, you have scarring alopecia. He was like, I don't need to do too much more. Now, he was a African American dermatologist. He said, I've seen this so many times. We don't need to really go any further.
He knew the
You have
drill.
alopecia. Yeah, he was like, you have alopecia from hair products. And he told me the breakdown, the nickname scarring alopecia and all of that. But the thing is, he didn't run the test and I didn't know back then what was supposed to be happening. He told me that, and I was just like, okay, this is what I have. So now, okay, what can we do? Now he didn't give me any options. He was like, "There's no point of getting injections in your scalp. That's not going to work. So don't even worry about it." It's like there's really nothing you can do. So I really didn't get any options from him. So in my brain, of course, I'm still trying to fix it. I'm trying to fix it. Let's go get hair transplant. So let's start that process. Let's see what that is, and I go down that route. Just to be told, I'm not a candidate for hair transplants because if they were to plant the hair, it would just fall right back out and it would be a waste of my money. I appreciate that doctor for being honest with me because they could have easily just taken my money and given me all these high hopes and it didn't work. But he was very honest and I appreciated that. So once he told me that I could not get the hair transplants, then it was like, okay, there's nothing else I could do. I don't know. I just was like, I guess this is what it is. And I just continued to wear wigs. And that was it, either wigs or weave. And I would weave in, hair into my natural hair to make it look like my hair. But I just kept covering it up and hiding, which is the big thing because that is what people are doing. They are literally hiding. And to your point earlier, like men and women always need to have a wig or something on to feel like themselves. It's hiding. It's covering them up. They don't want to show themselves. They don't have the confidence. They're still insecure about what's happening on the inside, whether they show it or not. That's an insecurity.
And so, can we just define some terms for people that might not be familiar? So, a hair transplant, that's taking, is it artificial hair? Is it someone else's hair and implanting it into your own follicles? Like, what is that? And then, what is weave for someone who doesn't know versus a wig? Like, what's the difference? Not
Okay.
everyone.
All righty. So hair transplants is when they take a strip of your hair or like actually your follicles from the back of your head, usually, and they transplant your follicles into the top of your head or wherever you have the missing hair. That's a hair transplant. So normally you'll maybe see a line, in the back of someone's head. Men usually get it, but it has become more popular within women because of hair loss. But that is a hair transplant. Now, when it comes to weave extensions, kind of it's all in the same bucket. It's just different types of fake hair. That's what it is. It's different types of fake hair. Some of it comes loose where you can use it to braid your hair with. Some of it comes on like what they call a track. So it'll be hair on, think of a seam. So in your clothes, it'll be hair sewed on to a seam, and then they pretty much either sew it into your natural hair or they'll glue it into your hair. So that's what it is. Hopefully that's clear. Did that explain it enough, or did I
Yeah,
need to go?
yeah, and I have an idea already, but not everyone might know even if they've heard the term a lot. And so when you were in this phase of covering up and hiding and escaping in that way, you said you didn't really tell anyone besides those closest to you. How did it feel walking around the world knowing that you weren't, being or feeling very authentic? Was it kind of easier to get away with, you think, and easier to do because of how common weaved and wigs are amongst Black culture? Or, like, did that kind of make it easier to just kind of go like incognito with it? Or like, what was going on in your head? Like, for example, if while you were out or when you'd return home at night?
Well, before leaving the house, it was always a thing of what does my hair look like? What do I look like today? Does this look right? Does this wig look natural? Does it look right? I mean, it was always a process. Even when I bought a wig, I would have to cut it to make it fit my face and make it look natural. So it was always a big to do before that, leaving the house and coming home. So then when I was out, I mean, yes, wigs were acceptable. They still are acceptable, but it's still something on the inside that I was like, whoa, like, are they looking at my hair? Does it look okay? Like it was always that insecurity. Even though I wasn't showing it on the outside, at least I didn't feel like I was. I felt that way on the inside. It was still that little voice in the back of my head, like, you look okay. Do you need to go to the mirror? Do you need to check anything? Is something showing? Like, it's always there. Even just traveling just to go on vacation. What do I do? How am I going to wear this wig? So if I want to get in the water, it doesn't lift up. Or if it gets too hot and I'm sweating, it doesn't lift and people see something. It was always something in the back of my mind. It's always a constant thought, just nagging, just to make sure you're always looking your best.
Yeah, and it certainly sounds all consuming. And it's like every element of your life has this extra layer of consideration of like, how is my wig or hair going to play into this? And so,
Yeah.
how would you say it impacted, if any, your relationships with other people? Like perhaps, dating life, or if you were married, or, your interpersonal relationships with friends. How did
Mhm.
that come into play there?
Well, it really didn't come into play unless it was a relationship or dating. That was really when it came into play. Because again, this is a person who doesn't know me. So then do I want to tell them what's happening, or do I just keep wearing the fake hair and, leave it alone? Because again, it's so acceptable to wear fake hair that nobody really is going to be like, hey, what does your real hair look like up under there? No
Yeah.
one really is going to ask that. So
Yeah.
it depended on the relationship and who it was. If I decided to share, if it was someone that I felt like, okay, this could be something serious, then I would share it. But if I knew, no, we're just hanging out. I don't need to tell you anything. But I can say also that when I was intentional about, hey, I got to get my mind together. I'm going to cut my hair off, and this is the look I'm going to go for now. I'm going to totally shave it off. And this is who I'm going to present myself as, because this is who I am, right? Dating played a key role in that, because at that time I was single and I was ready to start dating and get into a serious relationship. So my thought was, okay, if I'm going to get into a relationship and I'm meeting people online, I don't want to put a picture out there of me in a wig and then they meet me and they see that my hair is bald one day or whatever may happen. I want people to see me exactly for who I am, and I want them to be attracted to me exactly for who I am, because that just makes things easier, right? So that played a key role in helping me say, yes, it's time, because these are the things I want to do in my life. I'm ready to move forward and let's do it.
Fascinating. And so, dating and wanting to get into a serious interpersonal relationship, would you say that was the sole catalyst to moving on to the next phase of acceptance and shaving it all? Like that was what did it?
Not necessarily the single thing. That was part of it. Realistically, I was tired. I was tired of covering up. I was tired of hiding. On top of that, I lived in Arizona. Wearing a
Yeah.
wig in Arizona is hot.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
hot. And I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. It was just buying the wigs, paying the prices for a quality wig, getting it installed. Like I just was over the whole thing. I just wanted to just be free. That's it. And that was really what catapulted me to make the decision. The dating part was a second piece of that because again, I'm like, whatever happens, happens, but that was a second part of it.
And so, what did that feel like? That moment where you accepted it in the first place, and then the moment where you acted upon it. And what did that look like? Did you shave it yourself? Did you go to, a salon or a barber? Did you? What did that feel like?
Whew, it felt good. Now, so what I did to prepare myself, first I cut my hair low with the clippers. So I just did it myself. I cut it down low and then I used hair fibers. So I did this for a while. I used hair fibers to cover up the bald spots and the thin spots. So I just wore like a little low cut, like a little boy cut kind of. I don't know how to explain it. That was my way of just getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. So, of course, whenever you cut your hair off, especially low, you're going to attract attention, So I had to just get used to the attention. I got used to doing things by myself and just doing whatever it was that I was uncomfortable with in preparation to shave it off. But when I finally was like, okay, I'm comfortable, now it's time to shave it. I went ahead, I shaved it off myself. I, took the clippers to it, shaved it with the razor, and then I went and got micropigmentation. So that the key to that is I was like, okay, I experienced being just regular slick bald one other time, and I didn't really enjoy it. But part of that was because I wasn't mentally prepared for it. But I felt like at least if I had a look as if I had, like a low bald fade, I would feel better. So then I started doing some research, and that's when I came across micropigmentation. And I'm like, I think this could work. So like this shaded spot you see, like a hairline and all of that, that is all micropigmentation. And I love it. I think that was the best thing I could have done for me because that also helped me with my confidence. That also helped me be like, okay, all right, cool. I feel like I just have a bald fade and, I'm okay with it. So that helped me. Now, other things may help other people, but I highly suggest it.
And so, how long did you have it completely shaved before you did the micropigmentation?
So it was immediate. I already had my appointment for the
Yeah.
micropigmentation. So it was kind of like, all right, tomorrow is my appointment. Let's shave it on off, get it cleaned up, and went straight to get the micropigmentation.
And do you remember the first time you looked in the mirror, or did you look in the mirror in that in between phase, like before you did the micropigmentation? Like, do you remember that experience and what that felt like? Did it feel healing? Did it feel scary? Did it feel both?
Well, the first time I cut my hair off, when I looked in the mirror, I was like, oh my gosh. It was a scary thing. It was scary. I felt like I looked like a man. I didn't feel attractive. It was like all of the negative. But again, I hadn't prepared myself. I did not mentally prepare myself. So I have to say that because if I would have really thought about it, once I cut my hair off the second time, like when I shaved it before going to the micropigmentation, I don't remember having any feelings. I don't remember having any fear. It was really like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. And it was like stepping into the new thing, moving forward in excitement. That's how I felt.
And then what about after the micropigmentation? What did that feel like when you looked?
I loved it. Oh, I was just like, oh my gosh, I made the best decision. I absolutely loved it. And I had no insecurities once I walked out of that building. Now, the micropigmentation did take, I think it was 2 days for them to do because he did it all over my head. Now, it depends on what you get or your hair loss. You can really just get it in certain spots, if you only have, maybe a bald spot here or there. But I had my whole head done. So that took some time. But oh yeah, when he showed me the results, I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and at least over a camera, it looks fantastic. And in the photos I've seen. Now, what consideration did you give into finding the right micropigmentation person? Because I've also seen it not look so good at all. I've seen some
Yeah.
very unfortunate instances of it. So what did you like? How did you vet the person that you went to? Did you just so happen to go to the first person you saw and it worked out? Like, what's your advice for anyone that's looking into getting micropigmentation possibly and how to, make it work out for them?
I did a lot of research online and I looked at pictures of different artists to see what, what it looked like, what their work looks like. And also I paid attention to artists who worked on African Americans because, things show up different on us just because of the melanin, right? So it shows up different. And I had to make sure that, if you're going to do my hair, I wanted to look as natural as possible. Don't have me looking crazy because, yeah, it wouldn't have been good.
Yeah.
So I paid attention to the hairline. Like, is it straight? The colors that they use, because they use different colors depending on, what you are looking for. I looked at all of that, and the hairline was the biggest thing, making sure that the hairline was good. I even printed out a picture of what I wanted my, scalp to look like for the artist to see, just to make sure. And then he drew it out on me and followed that. So we were good. And he would let me see it as he was going through the whole process. And so he comforted me, really.
So
But
essentially, does
definitely, he
it
wasn't the first person I went to. I definitely checked some people out. I had some phone calls, conversations until I found that artist.
good? That's always how I advocate for doing things. You have to do your due diligence. You can't just go to the first thing you see and hope it works out because
Right,
sometimes it doesn't.
right.
And so does this get done by like a just standard tattoo artist that is also trained in this, or this is a separate thing altogether? Who does micro pigmentation? Is it like a specific practice or
Yes, it's a specific practice and from my understanding, it's a specific practice. So this person was certified as a micropigmentation specialist and had his own shop and set up, and that's the only thing he did.
oh
And that's
wow.
what I wanted. I don't want anybody who's drawing pictures on somebody's arm to work on my head and make it look like I have follicles. No.
Uh, got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah, fascinating. And so after that, and then even now, like, does the hair that you did have start to grow a little bit, and you shave it, or how does?
Yeah, so my hair still grows where it was growing. And I use just like the little everyday shavers, the little ones with the round, I don't know
Yeah,
what it's called, but it has the five little round things. I just use it every day and go over my head.
I got mine
And
over there. Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And just cut it every single day. And if I need to cut it down and really make it look neat, I'll use like the T liners and get it really, really close and then go back over it with the shaver. And that's it. It's super simple. Wash my hair, shave it, done.
And do you find that people like do people see you and then like do you think they know it's like a micropigmentation or does it like fool most people and people just think it like it is? Like what?
Yeah, no one knows. No one knew I had hair loss besides those close people until I actually started talking about it and supporting other women. So most people are like, I didn't even know you had hair loss. I just thought that was a look and I like it. I was like, and that was the purpose. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so do you have any sort of hair preference in men? Like do you like long men with long hair? Do you prefer men that are also shaved head? What
It
does
does
that?
not, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm attracted to the person for, of course, physical is going to be a part of it, but usually it's more their personality as well. Hair, no, I don't care what it looks like. As long as it's clean and groomed, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, what about language surrounding hair loss? So you proudly say the word bald and describe yourself as a confident bald woman. Are there people or women that experience hair loss that get offended by the term bald? Like, does that have some sort of stigma and then you just embrace it? Like, is there other preferred terms generally in the space? Or
I haven't come across anyone who has been offended by that. No, I haven't. But there are other terms that people use. I mean, I think it's interchangeable, like hair release. I've heard that before. But I really know, or hair loss, hair release, bald. Those are the only things that I'm hearing. Yeah, I don't think it really matters. I mean, hair loss is hair loss, whatever you want to call it. Nobody wants it. It's just something that happens, and you have to learn to accept it and embrace it if you know your hair is not coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in 2024, people like to get offended by words and
I
everything.
know.
And, I understand when it's something that someone's going through that is an emotional triggering experience that, certain words might carry a, particular charge. But yeah, I advocate for what you're saying of just let the word be the word and let it be for what it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when, how long were you into having this transformative experience and changing your own life when you decided, wow, I want to start helping other women with this?
Oh, well, realistically, I did not want to help women with this because that required me to share my story, and I did not want to
Oh,
share my story. So there was always a little voice over the years that would come and go, like support women with hair loss or support women. And I would say, no, no, no. I'm doing something else. So I would totally disregard it. Before I started supporting women just with their authenticity, embracing that and all of that, I was actually coaching in the real estate investment space because that's my background and those are my skills. So I was actually coaching and teaching people how to start midterm rentals. That was my world. But it was like, okay, it came to a point where that voice started getting stronger. And it was like, okay, you really, it's time. It's time. And then I started seeing different things happening in my life and in my business, and people were walking up to me, asking me about my hair loss and what am I doing to take care of my scalp, just different questions. People who are actually experiencing this, total strangers coming up to me, just asking me questions. So I'm like, okay, I feel like it's a sign. I feel like it's time for me to really start talking and supporting people. Now, did I immediately do it? No. Because again, I didn't want to share my story to the world. I'm like, I have to say this online. I have to put this out on the internet for everybody to know. I'm not ready. But I had to do it. One thing about me is I face my fears because I know I have to. If I don't face them, I will never overcome them. So even though that was a fear, I knew I had to go ahead and start with just recording my story. And once I did that and got it out, then it was easier for me to go ahead and do the rest and really put myself out there to support other women.
that's fascinating because there's been multiple levels and layers and steps along the way of having some sort of emotional blockage and then coming to accept it and then thrive in spite of it. And so even after you accepted, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and accepted that this was the new way that you were going to be and present yourself, there was still an element of kind of wanting to hide it from people. That's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. And
Mm-hmm.
so you said you didn't want to necessarily tell your story. Does that mean like you were trying to present it in a way that you made it as a conscious choice solely to shave the head and weren't experiencing actual hair loss? Like was that kind of the frame that you were operating within at first, or it's just like nobody asked, so like it didn't really matter?
Yeah, like nobody, realistically, no one really did ask,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like, I don't know what. I think it was really just fear. It wasn't like I was hiding or anything like that because clearly I'm walking around with no hair. So I'm not hiding, right?
Yeah.
I think it was just having that voice. That voice to say this is what happened and really breaking it down. I had never really shared that with too many people besides the people who knew about my hair loss, right? But even some of the stories I shared, they don't even know. So it was just about having that voice and really speaking it out loud for people who don't know me to hear. That was just the scary part. It wasn't, I think that was just it. I'm a very private person. So for me to have to do something like that was just a big leap for me personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one thing to do the thing, and it's another thing to talk about the thing in like a supposed to be inspirational and motivational way. There's a lot of mental schemas behind the scenes of, you know, trying to convey it to others, and that can produce a lot of emotions within ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you were going through all of this, you said you were in real estate. You said you were real estate coaching. Were you also actively a real estate agent yourself?
So I'm not an agent, investor. So a real estate investor, and I've been investing for a while. So that's like been that's been around. That's been my background. But yeah, I was actually coaching people on how to start midterm rentals, and I still do a little bit of it. That's like 10% of my time. 90% of my time is supporting women.
That's awesome. And so, I imagine on the investor side of things, it's a bit less social than being an agent, being like out there, et cetera. But how did you find your business life or your business associates or clients or whomever on that side of things responded to your new physical appearance or also your new energy when you decided to um, go shape?
Yeah. Well, there really wasn't a change. It really wasn't because as an investor, I can choose to be
Yeah.
social or not, right? So if I want to go to some networking events and meet all these people, I could, but I wasn't. I wasn't doing all of that. I actually didn't really start being more social in real estate until I cut my hair off. So it really wasn't a big deal.
That's just how you hit the field. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And so when you did decide to start coaching women, what did that look like? Like, how did that come to take place, and how did you get started in it? And how did you find the reception was at first?
Well, I already had that background, of course, in coaching with the real estate. So it was a easy transition as far as the foundational part. I knew I needed to put myself out there on social media and do different things. So realistically, it was more of a taxing, I guess, situation for me personally to even just switch over from the real estate to the hair loss and what people thought about that. Like my current clients or people following me and all of that, what did they think about that? That was a tough decision for me. So it took me, again, just some time to wrap that around my head. Like, okay, I'm going to lose some people from my email list. Okay, I got to be prepared for that. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I am, because I'm talking about something totally different. I'm not really focused on this anymore. So really talking to other people, just in the coaching spaces, or just talking to people about what would they do in these situations. But the realistic part, as far as how I came down this journey, it was really like, okay, I was on vacation. This is true. I was on vacation, walking down the beach, just kind of just doing my thing, meditating, just, being one. And it just kind of was like a strong sense. All right, it's time. It's time. You need to start supporting women. You need to start supporting women with hair loss. Because I was trying to figure out, do I need to support women around hair loss, or do I just support women and do something different, right? But it was very, very clear. You need to start now. And I just kind of followed that. And I just went with it, started putting myself out there on social media, rebranding myself and doing all of the things, and just went down the path. That's kind of it.
And how quickly would you say, clients or following in that realm came in or started to come in? Were people like just chomping at the bit, waiting for this kind of thing to be offered, and so they flooded in? Like, how was the reception to the public?
So no, not chomping at the bit, because people have to get familiar with me, right? So hair loss is, remember, something that people are not trying to share with everybody. So I had to start putting myself out there regarding the hair loss. People have to get comfortable with me before they would really book calls and, really start doing anything. So it was slow process, being honest. But this is why, I get on the podcast, and, I want to work with different organizations so that I can put myself out there even more for people to know who I am. And, so I can support them, basically. So I have, my clients, but I still need to grow and get more and support more women. So that's just the path I'm on at this point.
That's awesome. And so, how is it that you are working with these women? And what does working with you look like? Are you having like online meetings? Do you do in-person meetings? And what is the experience like of working with you?
Well, it's all virtual. Okay. So basically, I have a 90-day program, and we meet and do sessions one on one every week. And we just work on the mindset first, because that's normally what has to happen. We have to remove that negative self talk. We have to remove that identity because, we are tied to our hair. So we have to remove that identity and kind of overcome those things. Then we go through, okay, now that we have a better mindset, let's start doing those things that make us uncomfortable. How do we transition to whatever it is we want? Now, I'm not promoting that everybody shaves their hair off and be bald, but I'm saying if you choose to be bald or wear a wig, whatever that looks like, or a head wrap, be confident with it, be secure, secure with it, and hold your head up high. So that's the point. That's the goal for me to get them to that point. So getting uncomfortable or getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then we just do certain things like journaling. And, they have daily journaling, weekly check-ins, different things to just really say, okay, by the end of this 90 days, I'm ready. I'm ready to do whatever it is that I want to do, whether that's cut my hair off and just have a bald head, which many women are doing. To my surprise, many women are like, I'm tired of this. I'm just got to get ready to do it. I don't want to wear this wig anymore. Like they're just like I was, right? So getting them to that point to say, hey, this is what I'm going to choose to do, and I'm ready.
And has your experience with working with other women been that you find that they're having kind of the exact same mental procedures that you had going on? Or has there been anything that caught you by surprise that you didn't experience that you're now being told about? Like, is it a very like common path, or is that very different for everybody?
Well, some things are very common. So let's just say the denial, the maybe some depression or anxiety, those things can be common, the frustration that may come along with it. The one thing that surprised me, though, was the social isolation. I did not realize, because I didn't experience this, how many women are really like not going to social activities or events, whether it's with family or friends or whomever. They're not really doing those things because of their insecurities. I just did not realize it was that serious, but for some women, it really is.
Yeah. And is it primarily Black women that you work with, or have you found, all sorts of women coming to you, or what's
All sorts of women. There are millions of women around this world experiencing some form of hair loss. So it's all types of women. Yep, all types.
and with the women you're working with, do you find that the ones that do decide to go all in or all out and shave their head do you find they often are the ones that get to a greater level of acceptance and internal health? Or yeah, I see
Yeah,
nodding. Yeah.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I was waiting for you to finish your.
Oh no, good. No, go ahead. I seem like
But
you want
no,
to.
yes, once women cut their hair off, it's a whole new look. It's a glow. You can see the beauty from the inside, like just glowing and coming out. And a lot of times people don't realize too, when you cut your hair off, all of these features of your face come popping out that people never really paid attention to or noticed because you had hair, but they don't notice your high cheekbones or your eyes or, just certain things that you're like, wow. And you'll find that people will be like, you are so beautiful. You may have had hair your whole life and no one ever walked up to you and said anything, but you cut your hair off and it's like, wow, because people are shocked. No one is, I'm not going to say no one. A lot of people aren't expecting you to look beautiful with no hair. So when they see it, they're like, wow, you really look beautiful. And it's like amazement to them.
Yeah, and I
So
think
yes,
there's
the women feel great once they actually embrace it, cut their hair off, and they're just like, this is me. And they see the love and support they get. That helps them even more.
Yeah, and I think there's two parts to that, right? People aren't necessarily expecting people to look physically beautiful, but I think people aren't expecting people to themselves feel beautiful and then be
Mhm.
projecting that walk of confidence and happiness and radiance. I think that might even play a bigger part than someone's physical presentation. It's like that energy that gets carried that is unexpected that I think really catches people by surprise.
Yeah, definitely. And then too, women, when we shave our hair, we start doing things to just make us look a little bit more feminine too. Because it's like, okay, what do I do to make myself feel even better today? I'm gonna put on some makeup. I'm normally don't wear makeup, but now I'm gonna wear some makeup, or I'm gonna wear more dresses or wear more earrings, hoop earrings. Like there are certain things that women do, they adopt that makes them feel good to say, okay, I'm ready to step out the door just like this, you know? So whatever that may be, I help women with that as well. Whatever, even if you want to still wear a wig after working with me, I'm still like, okay, well, let's make sure we get you a good wig that looks good and matches on you, you
Yeah.
know? Like, let's just make sure, because again, my purpose is I want you to step out that door feeling very confident and very, much as yourself as possible. Even if you are still wearing that wig, you're still confident.
Yeah, that's a fascinating point you brought up because, of course, long hair and any sort of hair has been associated with femininity. And so it's been very, very damaging to a woman's sense of femininity. I would imagine, to
Yeah.
lose that hair and lose that element of expression of femininity. But like you mentioned, there are other things that can make up for that, and then even be those new expressions of femininity. That's very fascinating. Are there any other elements to that besides clothing and makeup? Are there other elements of femininity that you found have flourished in this experience?
The other part is the self-care. So like just doing those things like facials. I started doing more facials. Like, okay, my face is showing now, so let's make sure it's clear. Right. So just different things like that. Going to get you a massage, doing whatever it is that makes you feel good. Go do those things. I mean, even if it's a hobby, it doesn't even have to be something, that you have to get done to yourself. Go do something that you enjoy. Excuse me. Go do something that you enjoy doing for yourself. So if you enjoy fishing, go fishing. Take your hair off, go out there, get on a boat, and go fishing.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about things very much on an individual level, and we've talked about kind of external perception of yourself. But during this experience, what was your external perception of other women? Did you experience any sort of envy towards women that still had hair that you admired, or did you experience any sort of animosity or like negative feelings towards other women, even if they didn't necessarily do anything to you, but just because they had their hair still? And is that something that you experience with people you work with?
Well, okay. So for myself, no, I didn't experience any like animosity or jealousy or anything. Now, envy, I can say I might have seen a woman with some, nice hair, and I'm like, oh, I wish or a nice hairstyle or
Yeah.
haircut. I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that. But it was never that serious where I'm like obsessed about it or I'm downing myself because I can't do it. No, because again, it's like, okay, I had already accepted this is what it is. I can't do those things. Can't get my hairstyle like that. So this is what it is. But yeah, no jealousy, no envy, none of that. Now, the women I work with, it varies. It varies. I haven't come across too many women who are really like, oh, I don't like her because she has hair. No, not. But also to that, I'm working with more mature women. I'm not working with, teenagers or, people who may have that type of mentality. These are all grown, older women, more mature women who they're at a place in their life where I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about me, my well-being, and being happy and feeling good about myself. They're past that stage.
So it sounds like you were someone that, although you may have struggled with this unique hair loss experience, you were someone that already went into this with a strong head on your shoulders and a strong air of confidence and self-esteem and self-worth. Where did that come from? Because you really just radiate positivity and confidence. Is that something that you had since you were younger, or is that like where did that come from?
No, no. Okay. When I was younger, I was extremely shy and I'm still quiet to a certain extent. And I'm an introvert. So I'm still to myself, but I'm much better than I used to be. I used to be quiet. I'm tall. So I'm 5'9" and that's tall for a woman. So imagine growing up, I'm the tallest girl in the class. You know, it was like all of these different things. So I was super insecure about myself. It wasn't until I became an adult and really, really started embracing myself. And that's before the hair loss. Like I embraced my height, or I embraced, certain other things about myself where I was insecure about it before. But, as I got older, I was like, no, that's a benefit. That's a good thing. And also just my family and friends, just being around good people. They always uplifted me. I was never around anybody who would downplay me or talk negative to me. So I think that was just a benefit in general, because it was like I know I have to talk to myself in a certain way to benefit me, and those words I say to myself have to be positive, because that makes me feel good. So it's just, as I got older, just learning those principles, learning about the self-love and how to treat myself, and learning what I like and didn't like, and then realistically doing it, enjoying those things I like. It was just a growing process. Now, the hair loss was a second part of that, but in general, that was just how I built my confidence as a woman.
Very fascinating. I love it. I love the I just love your energy. Honestly, you have such a positivity. And have you faced any backlash towards what you're doing? Like, have you like got any hate towards your endeavor?
Not so much hate. The only thing I've gotten is like when I transitioned my email list, from the real
Yeah,
estate, I had to get people off my list.
of
So of
course.
course,
Yeah.
I'm sending now hair loss, emails. People are like, "What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah," and I'm like, "All you got to do is unsubscribe. That's what I'm trying to get you to do anyway." If you're not interested, unsubscribe. That's just that simple. But that was really the only negative thing, and that was just a transition. Had nothing to do with my personal hair loss or anything like that. Now, when it comes to maybe some negative comments from people, I have experienced that when I first cut my hair off. That time when I told you I wasn't prepared, I did receive some negative comments, but at that time, everything I perceived about my hair loss was negative. So of course I was going to attract negative comments, right? So I've had a man tell me it was a sin for a woman not to have hair, and I'm like, what?
Damn.
How ignorant is that?
That's rough.
Uh, yeah. I'm like, so do you mean to tell me all of these women out here who have lost their hair because they're receiving radiation and things like that? You telling me it's a sin? That doesn't even make sense. So I had to deal with that. But this people just can be ignorant. That's just it. I've had people ask me, "Where's my hair?" and I'll say, "In the trash." And those are usually people on social media who don't even know me, don't even follow me, don't even. They just may have seen a reel. They're like, "Where's your hair?" In the trash. Why are you asking me this? So you
Uh,
have to have a little humor. I have to like give it back to some people, because people will say something anonymously. They don't have their picture up, and their real name isn't out there, but they feel that it's good and okay for them to make any kind of comment to people online. So yeah, sometimes I have to get with people, but not often. Not often.
yeah, the internet's a funny place, you know? Doesn't
Right.
matter what you're doing, someone's gonna hate it
Right.
and make jokes. What do you think if you could rewind your life back to, when you were younger and, growing up, like, what do you think if that, young girl saw what you were doing now? Like, what would they think of that?
Oh, I wouldn't have imagined. When I was younger, my thought and what was instilled in me was go to college, get a corporate job, stay in that job, for who knows how long. So I always envisioned myself in a boardroom giving a presentation, like that is what I saw,
God.
right? Never would have imagined that I would have even gone down the real estate route. I would have gone down the supporting women, with hair loss and authenticity and all of that. Never would have imagined. But I could not have imagined it because even back then, the internet didn't even exist. We got to go back to the age thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so far fetched to me. I couldn't have ever imagined it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fascinating thing that's occurred, and how much the internet has opened up pathways that we never even knew existed, or that never existed until we forged them ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a very fascinating tool, full of a lot of dumb hate comments, but also full of a lot of good opportunities. That's amazing. And so, where can people on the internet find more of you? Like, what social medias are you on? Where can people go? What's the website that people can find you at? And how do you interact with people online? How would be the best place to contact you?
Okay. Well, you can go to my website. It's limitlessmindsetcoach.com. So limitlessmindsetcoach.com. And you can book a call with me directly through my website. Or you can follow me on social media. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook as Miss Kellie Michelle. So the same name you see on the screen, just look that up and you can find me. I put out all kind of great tips and stories about hair loss. So yeah, follow me. And if you want to book a call, if you feel like you need support around embracing your authenticity, definitely book a call because yes, I talk about hair loss. But if there's any physical, challenge that you are facing that is causing you to be insecure, I support that as well. So hair loss is my story, but my mission is authenticity.
I love it. I love it, Kelly. Is there anything else I haven't dug into yet? I feel like, well, we do have some time here. Is there any other elements that might surprise people to hear about your
Well,
experience or your journey, or what's?
I'm not sure if there are things, but I can tell you one other thing that I've learned just by being in this world and, and supporting women is that there's a disorder. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Have you ever heard of, I think it's behavior, oh, dang, what is this? BDD, behavior dissent, something disorder. Basically, it's where women, or not women, I'm sorry, people focus on something that about themselves that they don't like and they like obsess over it. So for example, if someone lost an arm, they obsess over it to the point to where they can't function in life or normally in life because they're so obsessed about this arm and what it, people looking at them and all that kind of stuff. I had no clue that that was like a disorder or a thing. So I'm like learning new things as I do more research around this, area of embracing your authenticity and all of that. I'm still learning some things. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
I mean, I feel like you put any combination of words together and it's some sort of disorder somewhere. But like I'm looking it up now. Is like behavior disruptive
Yeah,
disorder.
I think so. Is that it?
Uh,
Behavior disruptive disorder when you obsess? Does it have a definition with it? Because
Oh,
that sounds
this,
like it
this one
doesn't.
says, yeah, disruptive behavior. No, that's uncooperative children. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't get too caught up in labels. Everything's
Okay.
a thing,
Well,
but
yeah.
but yeah, the phenomena. Please, what would you like to say about the experience of those kinds of things?
Well, I mean, if that is what you are experiencing, I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. You have to get some help. I mean, you need to go to a therapist, you need to go see somebody if it's really affecting your mental health. Please go get help. All right. I'm not saying you have to get like coaching or anything from me because I feel like if you are going through something that serious, you need a professional who's a therapist who has experience with dealing with that issue. So I just want to keep that in or put that in people's mind, as well as if you are experiencing anything that you don't feel like is right within your body. If something is off, please go see a physician, somebody who can check you out see what's going on, and then take your steps from there. Make sure you just at least go find out what is happening with yourself. Don't ignore it, because these are signs that something is happening within your body, and it could be more than what you think. So please take care of yourself and make sure you get checked out.
Yeah, that's a great thing that you added in there. No, whatever the three-letter acronym is and whatever they call it, I think it's an easy trap to fall into to experience some sort of loss, whether it's, loss of a body part entirely or functionality due to injury or, something. And then make that such a core part of your identity and your framework that you live in, that kind of all things come back to that
Mhm.
experience of loss and that feeling of lack due to that loss. And I understand where feelings like that come from, and I understand that that can be very difficult to break out of. But of course, if we live in a state or of discontent due to whatever that one thing is, uh, that's certainly no way to live. That can certainly lead to unhealthy relationships or a lack of relationships or an unhealthy mental schema within ourselves that can also lead to further physical ailment within ourselves, and it just compounds the problem. We kind of attract the experiences of the energy that we emanate. And so, yeah, whether that does require some internal healing work or external tools or resources or external practitioners or consultants, or also perhaps physicians, because maybe there is something to do about whatever you're experiencing. Maybe you won't get yourself back to 100% like you felt you were before you were impacted in this way, but that doesn't mean that you can't take some sort of step towards living a healthier existence, like in your case, micropigmentation, like in other people's cases, other things. And, focusing on the actionables is the empowering stance and is the path of light instead of the path of self pity and wallowing in darkness. And one is certainly more favorable than the other. And, I understand it's difficult, and I've faced my own challenges in life. And I feel for anyone that is feeling these ways that we're describing. But more than ever, like we were mentioning, there's resources and tools all over the internet. Some aren't so great, but plenty are fantastic. So search and ask, and you shall receive. That's the way I see this world. But
Yes.
Kelly, to close us off here, are there any final thoughts that you'd like to leave people off with? Would you like to leave any specific thoughts to women that might be experiencing hair loss or at any point on that journey? Would you like to leave any closing thoughts for the world at large and the general audience? What would
Yes.
you like to leave
To the
us with?
audience in general, whether you are facing hair loss or not, whatever it may be, I want you to know that you were put on this earth for a reason, okay? And whatever you feel like is a challenge is probably a challenge that you can face and overcome, right? So make sure you take care of yourself, you love yourself, and be the best person you were meant to be on this earth. And that's what I have for you.
I love it. Kelly Rhymes, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.